Hello everyone, Zelorant here, and for today's video on Uma Musume, as the Capricorn Cup registrations have started, I thought now would be a great time to start taking a look at the following Champions meeting, that is the Aquarius Cup, as people are going to want to start working on their parents for that at this point. Now, the Aquarius Cup is going to be our very first Dirt Champions meeting, so if anyone's looking to kind of build an Uma that's not naturally good at Aquarius Cup, this is going to be your first time delving into actually incorporating Dirt Sparks. So a lot of work may need to be done by certain people if they want to make things work. But it's another mile race. Dirt will alternate between, I think, mile and medium. We have tracks of both types. And it's very similar to the Cancer Cup other than being dirt in that it is Tokyo 1600, counterclockwise mile, and then it'll be firm, winter, and sunny. Now, one of the things that's kind of unique with dirt is how few Umas can actually do it naturally well, and thus it does give an opportunity to kind of build some unique Umas that you might not see as much of in it, but you might be able to take advantage of to give yourself a large advantage. And the biggest one I've seen, and we'll talk a little bit more about that when we look at the track, is going to be Silent Suzuka, who's not naturally good at dirt, but she's the only current Uma that can do the runaway strategy. And thus, if you want to actually bring a runaway to it, you will need to build her for that. But first, before we look at the track and some potential Umas you might want to build, one thing to take note of, especially if you're willing to put a lot of effort into building something like a Silent Suzuka that can work on dirt, because it's going to take a lot of inspirations, do know that Aquarius Cup, if it works, just like we saw with Leo Cup, which we're fully expecting it to with the acceleration, in that Aquarius Cup, when it starts and partially through it, we can expect Make a New Track to drop in the middle of it, meaning you will be able to rebuild Umas in Make a New Track and put them into Aquarius Cup. Now, in Leo, I believe you're able to do that for both rounds of round 2, or maybe just the second round of round 2 and then the finals. But that means you effectively have like 2 to 3 days to rebuild your Umas. Now, this estimates, we've known they've kind of moved back and forth 2 or 3 days. But even if they push this one back 2 days and push this one forward 2 days, or back 2 days and this one forward, they would still overlap. And so it's very likely to happen unless they decide to not accelerate it at this point. And so just take note that Make a New Track is a significant increase in people's ability to get high stats, and even skills as well. Tons more skill points because you're going to be racing so much that it might not be worth that effort to build a very, very strong, hard to build like Silent Suzuka, because people are just going to be able to outstat you in the finals anyway, and you're going to have to start from scratch in that respect. And for Silent Suzuka Runaway, as one example, she can't even run and Make a New Track as a runaway because you won't have that ability to get that event. But getting that out of the way, let's take a look now at the track itself. So it's actually fairly similar to the Turf 1600 of Cancer Cup. Now, there is one thing that there was talk about early on, and people have tested, and this is not impacting it. But you will see that it shows terrain dirt green, and then it shows that it starts as turf and then shifts into dirt. Now, people have tested this, and this does not actually impact your Uma. So if there's someone that's not good at turf and only good at dirt, it is not going to impact you here. That's what I've heard from people that have actively tested it to make sure. Because there was people that were saying, oh no, with our Smart Falcons, who's going to be very strong here, we got to actually get her turf sparks just so she can take off as a front runner. But that is not the case from what I've heard on all the testing with that. It's just visual. But we have that, and then when you kind of see here, we have the downhill right here, an uphill at the end here, and then it's just a straightaway. And so just like Cancer Cup, it's going to be a lot of the same Umas that are strong in the sense if they can naturally perform in dirt. So like one that I really liked, or I seen perform really well, were end closers because of how close the straightaway is here. It's a little bit later than where you're going to get like angling and scheming, but it's close enough that it's still going to be decent for your end closers with like encroaching shadow or straightaway spurt. With the downside that not a single one of them, at least none of them that I know of, are naturally good at dirt. And so you'll have to build up the sparks and hopefully get a lot of inspirations to try and get at least A, to just be able to make them more be able to do well here, which then sacrifices your ability to try and get, say, like Mile S, which can be a quite significant advantage here as well. Now, for Miles, what I have seen is similar performance from having Mile S and Dirt S, whether it's you can get up to your top speed a little bit quicker versus you have a slightly higher top speed when it comes to the distance difference. It's just having at least one of them should be able to give you that little bit of an edge. It's not as impactful as, say, like longs, where you're able to take advantage of your speed for much longer, making that long S much more important, but it still is going to be important here. Now, one of the things with this track that makes it very unique, and Uma that everybody likes to talk about on who's going to be good at the tracks, is Christmas Ogre Cap. There is an uphill right here, and with that, it opens up her the ability to actually be a front runner that can trigger off of Moxie/Restless to activate her ult right here. And I have built that, and I've tried her out, and she does work quite well, because she can basically activate her ult from anywhere. She can be in 9th place as a front runner and activate it there. Now, I will say, if she's not at least close to the front, she's going to lose, because she's a front runner, so she's naturally slower than your paces, your lates, and your end closers. But if she's not able to be in first place to steal or have angling, if she's just like right behind, say, somebody else that's getting angling off, when she hits her ult here, she will be able to overtake those other front runners. So it's very, very, very strong for her as a front runner because of that capability. But that also opens up, as you can see, that it's a straightaway, meaning El Condor Pasa is another one, and she's already naturally good at dirt as well. Her ult, she just needs to be in first or second. That alongside angling, very, very strong. Those are what I would probably consider your 2 strongest front runners for this track, just for the simple fact that they have alternate ults they can use to get that acceleration if they're not able to get that first place. Of course, you have like Summer Maruzensky. You have to have a little bit more dirt sparks since she's D, but very easy to get and get her well there. Now, other Umas that were strong on Cancer Cup but are not naturally strong here can be something like Seiyun Sky. Just know you're going to have to bring a crap ton of dirt sparks to try and get her up to at least A so they can really take advantage of that. As well as Silent Suzuka. I have seen people who have built Silent Suzukas as a runaway, and she is very, very strong here as well. Just like, now our first time we seen that was Virgo Cup. We didn't have runaway available for Cancer, but Virgo Cup, I built her for Virgo, very strong on Miles, blocks angling, but I will say she's a little bit weaker in the sense that, if I'm not mistaken, on the Hanshin, the straightaway was a little bit farther. So we go here, Hanshin 1600. Yeah, it was a decent bit. So your end closers, your El Condor Pasas were not as strong here, which actually was really nice for the runaway Suzuka. Here, it's a little bit different. I mean, you have Christmas Ogre Cap, you have El Condor Pasa that can kind of take advantage of that. And so it's a little bit tricky there, but still very strong other than that. Of course, you'll have the same thing that we saw with Virgo Cup with Taiki Shuttle. Her ult's going to activate like right here in the middle of the second half of the last corner, meaning she'll have a little bit of carryover acceleration into here, but it will be very minimal. You'll really want to have some other stuff like head on and all that to kind of help get a little bit of extra acceleration to push her, but she is still very strong. I would probably consider the strongest of the frontrunners, or pace chasers, and naturally able to do dirt. You don't have to go crazy on getting the sparks on her to make her work here. I will say, though, I've been seeing, at least in the test rooms I've had, that they've been fairly front runner heavy. So if you remember Scorpio Cup, the front runner heavy rooms, or just being front heavy in general, really hurt Taiki Shuttle in that aspect. So I've actually seen people building front runner Taiki Shuttle here, especially if you want to do like a 3 front runners, like a Silent Suzuka. You do like Silent Suzuka, El Condor Pasa, and Taiki Shuttle. Or you can do what I'm probably going to have here, which is 3 front runners. One of them being Christmas Ogre Cap, El Condor Pasa, and Taiki Shuttle. Hopefully, and the idea being that all of them can get acceleration here. Ogre Cap can accelerate off this, doesn't need to be in first place. El Condor Pasa just needs to be in second place, and she can ult. And then Taiki Shuttle actually wants to be in 3rd or 4th place, so she should be behind my Christmas Ogre Cap and El Condor Pasa, and be able to ult from there. So all of them can ult and be able to win the race overall. They'll also be helping push each other forward to keep themselves away from the other pace chasers. It will also screw over other people with like pace chaser Taiki shuttles, because now we take up at least 1st, 2nd, and 3rd place, as long as the Taiki doesn't overtake any of them. And then if there's any other front runners, then the Taiki shuttles behind us are dead on their ult, and now they're just going full gamble. Now, late surgers, they're going to be pretty strong here. I mean, you're looking at like Agnes Digital probably being the strongest here, being naturally good at dirt. But just any of them that you can get up in dirt should be strong with the gamble, but it's a gamble. They either hit it or they don't. And then, of course, your end closers, they have access to Straightaway Spurt or Encroaching Shadow for Narita Taishin, which I've seen here, and she can be very, very strong. She just needs to have the sparks to get her up there. And that brings in the question, is it going to be worth it to do that? For the simple fact that you're going to need to do that again with very few days if you're going to want to rebuild them and make a new track, which I feel like will be absolutely worth it because it's such a big difference in stats. The jump from URA to Unity Cup was not as large as it will be from Unity Cup to make a new track. I've tried out making a new track a little bit on the Japanese version. And even being just like using a borrow deck that's not even good for making a new track with like garbage parents, I was getting not only a crap ton of skills, but the stats were fairly decent, even though I was completely playing it wrong. And I can see people being able to build monsters for it, and so you're probably going to want to do it yourself just to get that stat advantage alongside a lot more skills to make yourself very strong in the mid game. And you don't even need to go crazy with the meta make a new track deck. You can use you can use something that's only like 50% race bonus. And while it's not going to build you the strongest Uma you can to make a new track, but short notice, it'll build you a stronger one, in my opinion. And so that's why I feel like the effort to get some of those Umas that are naturally not good at dirt ready won't be really worth it. That's why I'm not probably going to build a Runaway Silent Suzuka. We'll have to see. I'm currently got 3 aces I'm testing out, and I'm going to currently be building others. But that's basically the track at that point. And so when you kind of just want to look here, you can kind of already see. I'll just kind of look at the ones naturally gifted at dirt. You can already tell right off the bat. You put it in here, you can see who's going to be strong here. Agnes Digital, of course, very good. Smart Falcon, probably the strongest, just like we saw with Cancer Cup. Now, in Cancer Cup, you had to build her strong for Turf, but she was E in Turf, so it was very easy to get her strong enough for Turf. She's just naturally gifted at Dirt, which makes it even easier to build her. And I feel like she's going to be the strongest for this track as a front runner in that sense, especially if you rebuild her and make a new track, because there's like no work needing to be done other than just doing a good run, getting some good stats, and getting some gold, the important gold skills on her. Haru Urara, of course, finally going to be coming in. We'll probably see a lot of her. I know a lot of people just want to play her because she's kind of an Oshi for the dirt side, and she's just naturally good. No work needing to be done. Of course, Ogre Cap, both her Christmas version and her normal version will be strong here. Christmas version being absolutely the strongest if you build her as a front runner. She is front F. So with enough sparks, you can get her all the way up to B. And then I've seen mine works plenty fine, even as a front B. But definitely if you can get that A or even S on front runner, especially with the very high wit you're going to be able to get on her, for the simple fact you're not going to need as much stamina, she can be very, very strong. El Condor Pasa, Taiki Shuttle, crazy good as well. Maru Zensky, D in Dirt, she can make it work if you want to bring Summer or the original. Now, the original, you'll kind of see, she'd be the trickier one to work because her ult is not very good timing. But if you wanted to do like the crazy build that we saw a lot of people do with end closers in Cancer Cup, was they actually built end closer Maru Zensky. So that way she would actually be far behind. But then as she catches up and passes people and gets herself into 5th place, she would actually activate her ult late. But now she's got a massive acceleration. Can work. But because you need to also get her dirt sparks will be much harder to build a end closer Maruzensky, because you're going to need end closer sparks and dirt sparks. And now you're pretty much sacrificing Mile-S potential on her. So Maruzensky, of course, strong, just like Smart Falcon in her own respect, has a good mid-race skill to get past people. Of course, you got your gamblers. Ishii Amazon, I believe, being the easiest to get dirt for your end closer if you want to go the end closer side, because she's dirt E, so you naturally, just with 10 dirt sparks, can bring her all the way up to A. And then, of course, you have the same thing with McQueen. You want to bring McQueen, just 10 dirt sparks. Any of the E's work. And then, let's see. Then you get down into the F's, and that's where it becomes a little bit more tricky, but they can work. I've seen Tamamo Cross. She does quite well. Just want to try and you got to make sure you can hit those inspirations to get that dirt up to A. And with all those dirt sparks, you might as well shoot for trying to get dirt S at that point. You just need 2 inspirations. And then, of course, you have your G's. Some of them can be strong. Silent Suzuka probably being the most unique one that I've seen people using, just for the simple fact she's the only runaway we have, but she is a dirt G. So have fun getting that all to work. And just know, you cannot rebuild her and make a new track, even if you're willing to put in the effort to try and get her to dirt A, because you cannot get runaway and make a new track. So if you build her and you just want to stick with her, even just know she's got a lot of potential to get passed by stronger frontrunners as they get rebuilt in Make a New Track, and she won't be able to hold that lead that she naturally has an advantage for. We'll have to see, though. I have no clue. This isn't something any of the other servers were able to experience because they didn't have the acceleration making them overlap. And of course, you have everybody. I mean, everybody else here going to take a lot of work, but they all have potential depending on their positions. But that is the Aquarius Cup. It's one I know a lot of people have kind of just said, just like Sprint. I feel like a lot of people have been viewing Capricorn Cup and now Aquarius Cup as like their mini break. Even for me, I've not put a lot of effort into them, not only because I'm really busy at work right now because the tax season, but it is one of those, like, Make a New Track is almost here. I think most of us are just done with Unity Cup at this point. And because of the overlap, it's like, I'm just going to get something that can get me to the finals, which might be your plan there. And once Make a New Track drops, then I'll put a huge amount of effort to build a monster in that. Just know it's not that easy to just naturally know how to do everything in Make a New Track. It does have a learning curve to it. I've tried it in the JP version. I've watched some videos on it. But I still feel like you'll be able to still build really strong monsters in it for it, even if you don't play it as efficiently as you can. If you play it correctly, it's still going to build you stronger Umas in the long run. But that's a lot of talking here for it. But that is Aquarius Cup. Kind of looking forward to it. It's the first dirt one, even though it kind of sucks with this overlap. But we'll just see what happens there, because after that, we're going into Make a New Track, and then we're going back to a 3,200 long that is also going to be heavy and rain, which is going to be real fun. Luckily, we'll have Make a New Track to help with it, but it's still going to be a tough one to build for, being long. But that's pretty much it. And if you like my content, if you can like, comment, subscribe, it really helps. And thanks for watching.